See, politics is more for us social service than politicking really. We don't understand this horse trading, we don't understand this. Lakshadweep and all the other southern states of ours, Kerala, all of it. And the Indian Youth Congress is one of the largest democratic youth organizations in the world, with a strong member base of about 6.5 crore members. We outdo and outshine most of our peers in the similar field. Politics is just something that is an easier way to connect with the people and for your social service. It's actually easier for you to get into politics because you won't have enemies built up when you come in.
Okay.
So when you're from naturally, within the family and outside, within the party and outside. So it'll probably be easier for a fresher rather than somebody with a background.
Think democracy, and there are two names that come immediately to our mind. One is USA and the second is India. These are the two largest and most popular democracies in the world. Among these democracies, there is one of those political parties called Indian National Congress, which is a mainstay of the politics in India. So we have one of the representatives from Indian National Congress, Mr. Raksha Ramaiah, here in our office. Welcome to our office, Mr. Ramaiah. Yeah.
Thank you.
So let's have a chat with him about his political ideology, what he thinks about the political situation currently in India. So let's start with who he is and what he wants to achieve by joining Congress.
So my name is Raksha Ram. I'm a very strong born-bottom member of the Bangalore family, to say. On the larger picture, I'm a part of the Indian Youth Congress. I'm the social media in charge for the southern states of Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Pandi.
After listening to your name, there is a very interesting thought that comes to my mind. Think Bangalore and it's about Silicon Valley, it's about the UB Tower, it's about the Ramaiah, the group of institutions which has engineering colleges, medical colleges and a lot of other educational institutions. So let's talk about, are you related to Mr. Ramaiah, the illustrious Mr. Ramaiah?
Yes, MS Ramaiah is my late grandfather. His vision, he didn't have the privilege of education, so he was a school dropout at 3rd grade. So his ambition was to first get his children educated, and in the process he got all his sons educated, his daughters educated, and in 1962 he formed the MS Ramaiah group of institutions, which was probably the oldest South Indian private university.
Let's get more into your family background. Anybody from your family apart from you was into politics?
Very much. My grandfather didn't support politics very actively. My uncle, my dad's older brother, used to be an MLA from Devanhalli. Then my father was an MLA from Malleshwaram, from the Indian National Congress, from 1999.
So would it be right to say that you got just the right kind of atmosphere in your house to be able to honing your own skills in terms of politics?
Absolutely. It is. See, politics is more for us social service than politicking really. We don't understand this horse trading, we don't understand this, but we understand the pockets that we need to work in. We understand the wards we need to work in, what wards need better facilities, what needs better connectivity, what community of people need what services. That is the kind of politics we understand, and we've been brought up to obviously business is our first virtue, and following that is social service, and politics is just something that is an easier way to connect with the people and for your social service needs.
Now that you bring up about social service being one of the most important aspects of your life, I want to ask you this thing, that when you go overseas, you see a lot of political parties and they are visible across the spectrum doing some kind of a social work, but that kind of visibility for the Indian politicians is very rare.
Yeah.
Why does that happen?
I would not like to comment on the fact that all politicians are corrupt, which is not true. I would say there are good politicians, there are bad politicians.
No
in
doubt.
every state.
All politicians are not corrupt.
There's every state or every country has their own set of corrupt politicians, good politicians. It's who the people decide to vote for.
There's one question that prominently comes to my mind is, considering that your family has always been into Congress, what are the reasons that the Congress has been on a decline in Karnataka, where Congress used to be one of the most powerful or the only powerful political party in the state? We have seen a surprising decline of the Congress in the past 1 decade. Why has that happened?
I wouldn't say a decade, probably a little more than a decade. The rot started probably in 2006, 6 onwards, when there was a whole reshuffle of all in charges in Karnataka. People started getting whitewashed with the ideas of negative Gandhi, negative Nehru. So propaganda started building from there. So this trickled down to individual households where wrong information was fed, negative information was fed about the Congress party, its workers, or the history. Our history has been distorted terribly. Our facts have been distorted terribly, like to no end.
Okay, now when you have mentioned about it, there are two things that come to my mind immediately. One, since the advent of the social media, has this one of the departments where the other parties, or prominently I would name the party BJP, has been able to trump all other parties and taken a head start as compared to Congress?
Yes, I would agree with that. For the only reason, the funding that the Congress was channelizing at that point of time was purely based on farmers. The whole agenda was to uplift the poorest sections, to make sure the farmer society is... So the whole idea was right, but it wasn't focused on building the party. When BJP was the first one to get on track, they got their funding right, they got the right people to back them.
What is the kind of influence that agencies like Cambridge Analytica can have on the election outcome in India? And recently there has been a controversy regarding WhatsApp being hacked and snooping happening through WhatsApp also. What's your take on this? And I would especially mention about Priyanka Gandhi mentioning that she suspects that her WhatsApp also was being snooped.
Technology is something which changes every day. So, like for example, a WhatsApp algorithm changes every 6 months or every 2 months. So, to predict what sort of influence it can really have is pretty difficult. Now, a platform like YouTube has a larger reach or equal amount of reach like WhatsApp, and they've been trained to sort of push in information that you may not need, but you may see it just by default. These sort of information at every level is really important.
Recently some news have started coming up about today actually, a few moments ago we came to know about Mr. Jyotiraditya Scindia actually changing his bio profile, and he has removed Congress from his bio data, and this is one thing. And second question I wanted to ask is, there is a lot of things happening in Maharashtra right now where a lot of Game of Thrones is being played, and we actually don't know what the actual situation is, and the situation in JNU. I take an example because Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad, as the student wing of BJP, is much more vocal and much more visible as compared to NSUI. Why is that happening? And BJP or its youth wing or its presence in the various campuses in Delhi or Maharashtra or any other places is much more prominent as compared to in Karnataka. I'm just saying or naming the state of Karnataka because you belong to Karnataka state. Why is it that the student politics atmosphere in Karnataka is almost invisible or non-existent? Why does it happen?
So this actually goes back to the 1990s, where student elections was banned. So be it in our colleges or other regional colleges, we did not support an active electoral reform. That is the reason elections don't happen in Karnataka like a Bangalore University as well as much as it does in Delhi University. They actively promote student activism, and in Karnataka we don't. It is very important for students to be able to voice their opinion, to be able to protest, to be able to reach out to their communities that don't otherwise listen to them. And crushing this student activism is probably the worst thing that the BJP government is doing currently, and this will have a repercussion in a short, it won't take them too long. This repercussion will be faced very, very soon.
Political parties or families across the board in India, they do promote nepotism. But why is it that the word nepotism sticks more prominently with Congress than any other political party? Be it Mr. Mulayam Singh Yadav, be it Mr. Sharad Pawar and Supriya Sule, be it Mr. A.K. Sangma, P.A. Sangma and his daughter. Name any political party or family, they do promote their families and everything. But whenever this comes with the Vanchvad, that the word that they use, it gets stuck more prominently with Congress than any other political party. Why is it
so? It's basically mental training. So everybody is trained to be against the Gandhi families in the last 6 to 7 years, and this is paid propaganda. So it starts from there. It starts from the Gandhi family because it's traded from there. The Gandhi family actually was not interested in any of this. It is our late prime ministers who had actually gone and requested the Gandhi family to come back. So if you say nepotism, you can even talk about Yadurappa's You can talk about Amit Shah's.
Yeah.
You could talk about Shiv Sena's. It's everybody. In India, it's a very active thing.
Is it easier for you to get into politics, or is it easier for someone, let's say for example me, who's a novice?
It's actually easier for you to get into politics because you won't have enemies built up when you come in.
Okay.
So when you're from naturally, within the family and outside, within the party and outside. So it'll probably be easier for a fresher rather than somebody with a background.
Okay.
That's my take on it.
Can you comment on the current status of the economy that the country is?
The lesser said, the better, because every institution of ours has failed us. Every public sector company, private sector company are shattered. Whoever are not talking about it are afraid of the government, are afraid of being penalized, are afraid of being arrested, are afraid of tax raids on them, are afraid of tax slabs on them. So basically there's a culture of fear right now in the country, and the economy is doing terrible, and we can see that on the ground. I'm sure you can see it on the ground as well, like the travel sector, the manufacturing sector, the export sector, everything is dropped.
Okay, you being in charge of the social media, I wanted to ask you, and I'm very keen to know about this, that most of the time Congress comes up with an excuse or with a statement that the social media is entirely and completely controlled by misinformation. But what is it that the opposition parties or maybe Congress doing to provide information? There is a lot of misinformation, we agree about it, yeah, completely agreed. But what are the steps that are taken by Congress to flood the social media with information?
So there's a certain amount of flooding or information dispensation that we can actually get down to. The mainstream media is entirely controlled by the ruling parties, which was not the case when we were there. We never pressurized anybody to have any information out or curtail certain information. So social media being our only avenue, we tried from all our levels, from the booth levels, ward levels, assembly levels, parliament levels, state levels also. We have built our state social media teams or our national social media teams to insist on right information, insist on verified information. If the information is not verified, we suggest, we advise people not to post anything. But when it does come out, we try our level best to reach out to the number of people.
So no paid promotion, I would say that you're going thoroughly for organic.
Organic is what we do. We do. We see certain numbers we have to have a paid promotion, but it's a 1:100 is the ratio. If BJP spends 100 rupees, we spend 1 rupee on it.
Okay. Any comment on the electoral bond scam that has started to come out?
In fact, these scams are so active or so many in number nowadays, we try to lose track of all of it. Electoral bonds is the most legal form of corruption that this government is a part of, and not able to disclose whose money it is.
One last message to the viewers about why I should be voting for Congress or why I should be a part of Congress.
You should be voting for Congress because if you believe in one India, if you believe in one country, if you believe in one secular country that we all have built, we all have learned building, not differentiating anybody, a single law for everybody, then you should vote for India.
Okay. Mr. Ramaiah is going to be the CM of Karnataka or Prime Minister of India?
No, he's going to be a social worker for the country, for the state and for the Bangalore city.
Okay, is that the truth?
That's absolute truth. If the government or if my party asks me to stand somewhere, we will now work for the party, and if they request us or ask us to stand somewhere, we definitely will.
It was wonderful talking to you, and even if it was a lie, I want this to turn out as the truth, either being the CM of Karnataka or being the Prime Minister of India.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations and all the best.
Pleasure was mine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.